Hello, Sherman here. Leave a Legacy, episode number 49. Let's rethink education. So typically the person that would go to college had the attitude of, I'm going to sit in this class, someone's going to lecture up there, and then in maybe a couple weeks they're going to give me an exam, and then a couple weeks later, through the process of them lecturing again, they're going to give me another exam, and then go on and so on and so forth, and 4 years later I'm going to have this piece of paper degree. I can go work for a company, and then in return, they're going to train and develop me, and then I can start my career path. That is the old mentality. The next bubble really to burst is education. It's I think a 1.3, $1.4 trillion debt business right now. Interest rates are right now being excessively low in the marketplace, and that's going to change. And we need to rethink the way that we put emphasis on education, and it needs to be more driven by the individual. What I mean by that is students have to have less of an entitlement attitude and more of a proactive approach in saying, this is what I want to accomplish. This is where I want to go with my education. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start jumping in on different classes in order to succeed. If any of you have seen the wonderful Stanford graduation speech by Steve Jobs, he talks about one of the greatest things that ever happened to him was dropping out of college. And then he started dropping in on courses that he wanted to audit. Like one of the ones that he really liked was calligraphy. And he references in the in the speech is that that's what gave him the idea of having different fonts in word processing. Of course, he says that Microsoft stole it, but again, I don't know if that's a joke or if that's serious. I don't know enough about that. But the thing to identify there is that oftentimes college students just do stuff because that's what's required. First off, there's typically about 18 to 24 credits of just general education that really doesn't apply if you know what the heck you're doing. The other thing that I'd identify for the typical person when they're looking at their career is they don't look strong enough at what is required to be there. And this is not your grandparents' workforce anymore. You're not going to work at one company typically, and that's going to be the rarity to work at one company your entire career. Most people are going to jump maybe every 5 to 7 years in identifying what different companies, what different leadership, what different management and culture is going to give you the skill sets to take yourself to that next level. And if your current leadership or management doesn't get that yet, they'll eventually get there, because it's going to be necessary for the employer and employee to have a much more, hey, what's in it for you attitude, and we're going to train and develop you and give you different skills. And if we do it so good that you end up leaving, that's a good thing. And of course, it's hard to think about that, but that's really where the evolution is going. The other thing when it comes to education is being able to recognize is that not only do you want to start picking out the different courses or the different processes that you want to learn, but a lot of it can still be done self-study. There's a lot of different videos, how-tos, just a lot of information on the internet already to be able to really get yourself in a solid position. If you look at a master's in business degree, an MBA, really you could basically piecemeal that with all the different books that you end up are requiring to read and then have a class discussion about. If you got real serious about your MBA and really broke it down, you could do a self-study course and do it probably in about half the time, depending on how quickly you can read and then how much you can devote to that. And of course, lastly, how quickly you can absorb information. And so I see right now where we're at is going to be an amazingly different education system going forward. You look at programs like Khan Academy, where they're pumping out gobs and gobs of content from financial economy, derivatives, all the way down to basic math. So it's going to become necessary for the education system throughout the world really to catch up with where we are on the internet. You look at other how-tos, even on the technical side, you can find almost any how-to on the internet. and how that's going to be able to start changing the technical colleges as well, to be able to leverage those expertise that's not even in the classroom. Heck, they might not even be in the community. You might be learning from a professor on a YouTube video about how to fix a certain plumbing issue or a automotive repair, but it was a video that was created 6 months ago and still applies to the 2015 or 2016 Toyota Camry. I think it becomes very important for people to take better ownership of their education and stop leaving it to somebody else to give you the education that they think that you need. Only you know where you're lacking. And once you identify where you want to go with your career, you're going to see that there's different gaps that exist in your education, and you want to start plugging those holes. The last thing that I'd say for those of you in financial services, this is a plug for those examfx.com or acure.com, these online tools that allow you to get licensing done for life, health, 766 licenses. One thing that I would tell you from a best practice perspective is to really just go through the content, really just scan it, and then jump into chapter exams. Once you passed 3 of them in a row at 75% or higher, you're ready to go to that next chapter. And then once you've done that with all the chapters, you want to start taking final exams. Final exams. They have a bunch of practice exams. Oh, also Kaplan's another one. And we want to get to a point where you're at 75% or better on those courses. Now, here with the Series 24, I know actually boasted, or actually had on there, they want you to be getting basically a 65 as the lowest 3 times in a row, because the way that they ask the questions, you have a tendency to do higher. That was the case for me. I don't know enough information if that's the case across the board. However, that's what KEIR, K-E-I-R, says within their computer program for the Series 24. And then that is extremely valuable information when it comes to taking those exams online, is finding a bunch of bank of questions and just hammering those through. So the question that I have for each of you is, what are you using to constantly be learning? Have a fantastic day, everybody.